The world exploded around me in a cacophony of fire and metal as the dropship careened through Kyra Prime's emerald skies. Alarms blared inside my helmet, high-pitched wails that threatened to drown out my own heartbeat. I fought to wrest control of the descent thrusters, but the hull had ruptured. Whatever emergency systems remained were failing. In moments, we would slam into the jungle canopy. The impact shook every bone in my body and sent debris flying. I hit the ground where the underbrush was thickest, my suit's impact gel absorbing just enough force to keep me alive. My gums crackled to life. Commander Fletcher to base crash landing Kira Prime, hostile environment. Send evac. My own voice sounded distant. No response. Either my signal was down or there was nobody left to answer. I shoved up the visor and dropped to one knee, scanning the riot of color around me. Towering ferns bristled with bioluminescent spores. Thorn vines writhed like silver snakes. Above, two suns, one a pale green, the other a dying orange cast an otherworldly twilight. My pulse rifle dangled uselessly at my hip. Its clip shattered and fuel cell fractured in the crash. A primal howl ripped through the clearing. I whipped around just in time to see six-legged predators bursting from the foliage, their segmented carapaces dripping phosphorescent saliva. These were the starhounds of Kyra, prime bred by smugglers for exotic meat, then abandoned. When too vicious even to farm. I'd read the dossiers. Their bite could dissolve flesh to the bone in seconds. I crouched, fists clenched. No ammo meant zero chance of long-range engagement. Survival hinged on close quarters, and despite my exosuit's augment, I was still just one man against a pack. The first beast leapt. Its jaws gaped wide, rows of crystalline fangs glinting in the fading light. I sidestepped, driving my elbow into its flank. The chitin cracked. It snarled and whirled, tail lashing. I caught the blow with my forearm guard, sparks dancing as metal met bone. Pain bloomed, white-hot, but I didn't relent. I pressed on its carapace with both hands, felt the brittle segments splinter under the pressure. With a final grunt, it folded to the ground. Two more attacked at once. I ducked beneath one's maw and rose to drive a fist through its neck joint, severing neural cords in a spray of yellow ichor. The other swiped with razor-like claws, steel-toned blades that could carve through concrete. I seized its wrist, twisted, and heard the snap of exoskeleton plates. It recoiled, stumbling. I capitalized on the opening, hammering my gaunted fist into its carapace until it tumbled. Every breath was agony, every movement ringing in my ears. My shirt was shredded, synthetic fibers torn to ribbons. The strength in my muscles pulsed, like iron coils, but exhaustion clawed at me. 3 beasts remained. They circled, sensing weakness. Their bioluminescent patterns flickered faster, an instinctive hunting call. I scanned for an escape, but behind me the jungle yawned into shadow. There was nowhere to go. Then I heard it, a soft rustle beyond the nearest ferns, as if something larger brushed through the undergrowth. The hounds paused, head swiveling. I squeezed my eyes shut and braced for the final charge. A resonant voice cut through the tension. "Stop!" I cracked one eye open. Half-blood moonlight pooled around a figure stepping into the clearing. Tall, willowy, draped in flowing robes that shimmered lilac in the gloaming. Her skin was pale lavender, her hair silver white, braided with tiny luminescent crystals. In her right hand, she held a slender staff topped with a prism that pulsed softly. Starhounds stiffened and, inexplicably, retreated. Their glowing war paint dimmed as they slunk back into the undergrowth. I sank to one knee, heart hammering, utterly bewildered. The woman approached, eyes cool and luminous. "You're fighting." It saved me. I wiped ichor from my cheek. You summoned them?" She shook her head, staff lowering. "No, they fled at my presence. They respect their queen. Queen? My voice cracked with fatigue. She knelt beside me, examining my shredded sleeves and bloodied gauntlets. I am Princess Azara, heir to Kyra Prime. Those creatures were bred to hunt the weak. You are neither weak nor typical of your kind. My mind reeled. I'm just a soldier, crash-landed. My orders were to survey planetary resources, not play hero for exiled royalty. Isra's violet eyes softened. Yet, here you are, battered and brilliant. She pressed a cool hand to my brow, and for an instant, I felt shockwaves of relief and something more, something like destiny. You fight with your bare hands as if they are extensions of your will. A twig snapped behind us. I tensed, but she raised a finger. Enough. The tree shuddered. Vines wrapped around the base of her staff, tugged at it as if alive. She closed her eyes and whispered words in an ancient tongue. The staff's prism blazed white, and the jungle exhaled. Wave of calm that stilled every leaf and vine. I stared at her in awe. What are you? She smiled, a moonlit curve of lips. Kyrian. And for the moment, also your protector. She rose, offering me her hand. Hesitantly, I took it. Her grip was cool but firm, and together we stood amid this silent clearing. She studied my battered form, concern flickering in her gaze. You need healing. Follow me. I glanced back toward the wreck of my dropship. Smoke curled upward, searching for the sky. Behind me, my rifle lay half buried in dirt. Ahead, a silver path peeled away into the jungle's heart that my choices were. Clear and terrible. Alone, I'd die here. With her, I might uncover why this jungle and its mysterious princess pulled at something deep within me. I nodded. Lead the way. As we stepped forward, Kyra Prime seemed to exhale once more, its twin suns dipping below the horizon, stars igniting overhead. Somewhere in that vast alien night, fate was weaving two lives together, one battle at a time. Dawn's violet glow seeped through the dense foliage as I stirred awake on a bed of woven vines and silky leaves. My muscles screamed in protest, but a gentle weight on my wrist held me still. I opened my eyes to find Princess Azara kneeling. Beside me, her pale lavender fingers pressing a small, crystalline poultice into the bruise blooming on my forearm. You're stronger than I expected, she murmured, wiping away a trickle of blood from the corner of my mouth. I feared. The worst when I saw you fighting those starhounds. She smiled, and for the first time, the weariness in her eyes softened with genuine relief. I swallowed. Thanks to you, I'm still breathing. I sat up, testing my arm's range. The pain was duller, now a testament to her healing gifts. Around us, the jungle stirred. Crickets chirped. And somewhere in the treetops, a pair of silver-winged songbirds called out. Azara rose and dusted off her flowing robes of moon, silk garments woven from Kyrian moonmoth cocoons that shimmered. With each movement, "Come," she said, extending her hand. "There is much you should know." A hidden sanctuary we wound through a labyrinth of vines that responded to Isra's staff like memory, parting gently at her command. Every so often, she paused, touching the bark of an ancient tree or murmuring softly in her native tongue. The forest itself seemed to lean closer, as though eager to listen. At last, we emerged into a hidden crater ringed by jagged basalt pillars. At its center lay a crystalline pool, its waters glowing faintly with healing energy. Bioluminescent. Moss carpeted the stones, and delicate ferns curved toward the light, as if seeking its magic. "This is the sanctuary of Lear," Azara explained, her voice hushed. "A place of refuge for my people when we fled the capital." She knelt by the pool's edge and dipped a hand in the luminous water, then placed it against my chest. A warmth spread through me, knitting flesh and easing pain. "It also shields. US from Syndicate scanners." I pressed my hand to my suit's HUD display. No alerts. I can't detect any trackers, I said. That's invaluable. It saves lives, she replied, rising. But its magic is finite. We must move. Soon. The fall of an empire, as we followed the rim of the crater toward a narrow cleft in the stone. Zara recounted her story. Kira Prime had once been a beacon of unity in this sector, a civilization of crystal spires and floating citadels, governed by a council of light that balanced progress with compassion. Isra's father, Emperor Cerinthus, had forged treaties across dozens of worlds, including an uneasy alliance with the Syndicate smugglers who traffic in forbidden bioweapons. When the Syndicate's true agenda emerged, to harvest Kyrian life force crystals for their own ruthless ends, the Emperor resisted. In retaliation, they bribed nobles in the council, sowed dissent, and ultimately orchestrated a coup. Within days, Cerinthus was dead, and Asara was branded a heretic. I was taken prisoner, she said, voice taut with memory, chained in the Syndicate's auction pits, forced to watch them sell off my people's wealth. She closed her eyes, drawing a steadying breath. I escaped 6 cycles ago, but they've hunted me ever since. Every world I set foot on, they send assassins. I glanced at her silver staff. The prism atop it dimmed, but still pulsing. Your staff, it's Kyrian made. She nodded. It's part weapon, part key. It can activate ancient gates portals that once linked our cities through hyperspace currents. If I can reach the citadel of Aurelian, I can open the gate network and summon aid. I frowned. But the Syndicate controls the space lanes now. They'll block any reinforcement. They won't suspect a terrestrial exile, she replied, with a determined tilt of her chin. With you by my side, we might just slip through. Trust forged in stories, we paused where the path narrowed to a rope bridge spanning a chasm shrouded in phosphor mist. Below, glowing tendrils drifted like spirits. One misstep would be fatal. Azar stepped onto the bridge first. Tell me more. About you, she called back over the wind. A soldier, alone on a hostile world. What drives you? I swallowed, watching my boots find sure footing on frayed planks. Duty, mostly. I joined the Planetary Survey Corps, thinking I'd chart star maps, not fight monsters. I cast a sidelong glance at her. I never imagined I'd risk my life for a princess. Her laugh was soft as stardust. Titles mean little in exile. Out here, I am as vulnerable as you. She paused mid-bridge. But I have hope. And you have strength. That makes you far more than a soldier. As I reached her, the bridge swayed. I anchored myself, slipping an arm around her waist to steady us both. Our eyes met, hers trusting, mine resolved, and for a heartbeat time. Still then, from the mist below, a hollow roar echoed, the warning cry of a predator on the hunt. Isra's grip tightened on her staff. Stay close, she whispered. I nodded, heart hammering. Beside this exiled queen, I felt purpose crystallize. Not just survival, but rebellion. Together, we would reclaim her throne, and perhaps forge a bond stronger than any empire dot as the chasm shadows coiled with unseen threat. We stepped off the bridge and into destiny's depths. Chapter 3 awaited. The forest that night seemed alive with distant whispers, as though the trees themselves debated our fate. Azara and I moved in silence, every footstep muffled by bioluminescent moss. In the gloom, her staff's prism glowed faintly, casting fractured rainbows across gnarled roots. Behind us, the sanctuary's magic fade, our last safe haven, and ahead lay the Syndicate's patrol routes, marked by flickering search beams. We skirted the main trail, slipping between fern fronds. My gauntlet, still stiff from yesterday's fight, throbbed with every step. Asara noticed my hesitation and slipped an arm around my elbow. Lean on me, she murmured. I can bear more than you know. Her warmth seeped through my armored suit, and I straightened, heart steadied. A low hum cut through the silenced turret sentries on hover drones, scanning the underbrush with laser sights. We froze. 2 emerald beams cut arcs across the clearing, approaching. I drew in a breath, ready to charge, but Izara raised a slender hand. Whispering in Kyrian, she sent a ripple through the air. The beams faltered, wavering like frightened fireflies. The drones veered off course, drifting toward a cluster of hanging vines. With a sound like rushing water, the vines seized the drones, tearing them from the sky. Sparks showered down, and the machines crashed in silent wreckage. I stared, half in awe, half in disbelief. "You control the jungle as you did the starhounds?" She gave a small, rueful smile. "The life here is part of me, and I, part of it. But power wanes with distance from the sanctuary." She placed her hand on my shoulder. "Here, though, it still bends to my will." We pressed on, alert for reinforcements. Soon the trees thinned, revealing a rutted dirt road where syndicate skiffs patrolled. We crouched behind a fallen log. Ahead, 2 soldiers in dark exosuits argued over a datapad. They rerouted supply convoys through Aurelian. One barked, "If the princess isn't there, those gate crystals won't open." "They'll find her," the other said, tapping a holoscreen. "I can feel it, and when they do, the reward will be ours." Isra's lips tightened. "They're closing in," I whispered. She nodded. "We have to cut the line here." I considered my empty rifle. Then, without hesitation, I dropped from the log and sprinted toward the nearest soldier. His head swiveled in surprise. I leapt, elbow driving into his visor, shattering it. He crumpled. The second soldier turned and fired, but the bolt curved midair, deflected by Isra's whispered command. I ducked and tackled him, pinning his arm behind his back. With a twist, I disarmed him, then managed to rip a sidearm from his harness. Asara caught up, retrieving the shattered helmet. "Well done," she said, voice warm. "Your strength saves us again." I handed her the sidearm. "I'm learning from the best." Our eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the forest, the war, and my battered past all fell away. In that luminous glance, trust turned to something deeper: affection, possibility, shared destiny. We left the soldiers bound but alive enough to delay pursuit without needless killing. By dawn's first light, we reached the rocky foothills where Aurelian spires pierced the sky. The citadel's walls, built of living crystal, gleamed in the sunrise, beautiful, foreboding, nearly impregnable. Asara raised her staff to catch the light. "There it is," she said softly. "The heart of my empire. Beyond those gates lies our fate." I secured my newly acquired sidearm, checking its charge. "We break in, find the gate control chamber, and you open the portals?" She nodded, determination shining in her moonlit eyes. "And you protect me, as you always have." I offered her my arm, and she took it. "Then let's move," I said as we stepped forward. The promise of revolution and of something more personal stoked the fire in our chests. Together, we would face the Citadel's defenses and shatter the Syndicate's grip, forging a new future for Kyra Prime, and perhaps for our own unlikely bond. Dawn's light fractured through the crystal battlements of Aurelian Citadel, scattering 1,000 rainbows across the courtyard below. Azar and I stood at the crest of a jagged outcrop, surveying the Syndicate's defenses. Kinetic turrets, nestled in living rock, patrol skiffs skimming overhead, and rank upon rank of battle drones marching the ramparts. Izara drew a steadying breath, her staff's prism pulsing in time with her heartbeat. "This is where we turn the tide," she whispered. "I'll breach the gate control chamber. You hold the line." I nodded, hefting the stolen sidearm in one hand and flexing my gaunted fist with the other. "Just say when." The breach, we slipped down the eastern face of the outcrop, vines parting at Izra's touch until we found a maintenance hatch, carved into the crystalline wall. With a few precise taps of her staff, the hatch yielded, revealing a spiral staircase bathed in pale blue luminescence. "I'll go first," she said. "Once I'm inside, trigger the signal. And I'll be right behind you." I clasped her shoulder. "Be safe." She pressed her palm to the wall, and it dissolved into motes of light, opening into the control chamber, a dome chamber lined with conduits of living crystal, all converging on a towering gate console. A dozen armored guards turned to face U.S., but Azara raised her staff and spoke in her mother tongue. Light flared from the prism, arcs of energy dancing across the floor. The guards froze, their weapons lowered as though mesmerized. I charged through the stunned ranks, sidearms spitting. Concussive blasts. Guards crumpled, but more surged forward. Fists flew steel against steel, flesh against exoskeleton. I felt the strain in my shoulder as I caught a bolt on my gauntlet. Sparks raining down, yet I fought on, each strike echoing in the crystal chamber. Amid the chaos, Azara reached the console and placed her hand on its crystalline interface. The conduits flared to life, pulsating in unison. A low hum grew to a roar, shaking the vaulted ceiling. Holding the line outside, the courtyard erupted. Drones swarmed toward the breach. Turrets unleashed tracer volleys. I burst through the console room doorway as the ground trembled and the outer gates began to glow with blue energy, the ancient gate network awakening after centuries of silence. "Isara!" I shouted, blocking a drone's path with my shoulder. Each incoming drone battered against my guard as I pushed forward. The courtyard became a whirlwind of metal and plasma, and still more syndicate reinforcements poured through side gates. I glimpsed roof razor skiffs diving in, their assault teams rappelling down with shock batons raised. I met them heaven barehanded. Once more my fists driving shock pulses into armored chests that sent them skidding across the crystal floor. Every strike felt amplified by adrenaline and purpose, fueled by the knowledge that Isra's success would shift the balance of this war. Gates of salvation inside the control chamber. Isra's eyes reflected the conduit's brilliance. "It's working. The portals are opening," she cried. On her command, a swirl of light coalesced above the console, forming a gateway shimmering with fractured starlight. I crashed into the chamber, half dragging one last attacker behind me. He dropped at my feet as I knelt beside Azara, panting. "Portal's up," I rasped out. She smiled, that fierce, regal smile that had first captivated me in the jungle. "Send the signal." I ripped a cum beacon from a fallen guard and pressed. "Into my cums port." "Allied forces inbound," I shouted into the channel. Moments later, distant streaks of craft pierced the Sky-Kyrian city ships, cloaked in crystal haze, warping into the atmosphere. A new dawn outside. The courtyard fell silent as rebel fighters poured through the gates, their cheers echoing against crystal walls. Syndicate forces faltered, outnumbered and outmatched by Kyrian loyalists wielding ancient weapons and unbound hope. I and Asara emerged onto the ramparts together. Below, the Syndicate's banners fell, replaced by the luminescent standard of the Council of Light. Survivors, formerly our enemies, bowed in acknowledgement. The fighting spirit quelled by the sight of their true queen returned. Azara reached for my hand and I clasped it firmly. "You saved my throne," she said, voice trembling with gratitude. "And you saved me." I looked into her violet eyes, thinking of the jungle's hush, the sanctuary's glow, and every moment that had led us here. "You did the same for me," I replied, as the first Kyrian dawn in exile bathed us in golden light. She leaned close and whispered, "Now, will you be my husband?" My heart thundered with joy. "Yes," I said, voice unwavering. 1,000 times, yes. Below us, a new empire rose, one forged by courage, unity, and love. And as Kyra Prime awakened to its rebirth, we stood together atop our alien citadel, ready to write our own legend among the stars.